Howdy folks, Charlie here from Christmas on Crestline. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for tuning in to a tutorial episode. Do you have strip lights that you want to use for a arts and crafts project, a DIY project for accent lighting, but you don't know how to do it? You know you're supposed to cut these lights so they can do right angles and jump around the room, but you don't know exactly what you need for it. Well, we're going to show you that today. Today we're going to do our own little DIY arts and crafts project, and we're going to take this mirror here, we're going to cut these lights up, we're going to do some 90-degree connectors on them, and we're going to make some accent lighting on this mirror. So some things you need to do this with us is you need some lights, you need some scissors, you need some connectors. If you're going to jump around the room, you're going to need some larger connectors. If you want to do some accent lighting for a kitchen, bedroom, something like that, this is what you need here today to join along with us. I'll put a link down in the description below where we get our lights from, and for these connectors you do have to normally buy them separately, so I'll leave a link down in the description below so you guys can check that out and follow along with us. Let's get this cutting some lights.
Howdy folks, I'm going to show you how to cut these LED strip lights, and we're going to decorate this mirror. I got this idea from my daughter. She was looking for one of those mirrors with lights around it so that she could put her makeup on, whatever light she wanted, and I'm like, you know what, I got you. We're going to do this for you. So what we need, strip lights. We have some right here. These are right angle connectors. I got these off of Amazon. I don't remember how much they were, but they're not that expensive. And these things just pop up. Well, if you have nails, they're sometimes easy to get open. So they just the thing just pops open like this, and once we cut these, we'll just slide them in, and they'll connect to the next one that will be in our right angle. So we'll need at least 4 of those if they all work. First thing you want to do is test your lights, make sure they come on, otherwise it's a waste of time. So let's just do that real quick. Power. Alright, so these are coming on. They work just fine. So what we need to do is figure out what corner you want the power connector to be at. And we'll just put that over here since our power cord is over here. You want to kind of outline, before we actually stick anything to it, before we take the strip off of the end of here, we need to figure out exactly what length we want all of our strips to be. So why don't we do that? Another thing to keep in mind, when you'll come across these LED strips here, where you want to cut is where you see the copper here, and it's whatever your voltage is, red, blue, and green. There should be 4 of them. Some of them only have 3. And if you're only using a white LED, you'll only have 2. So when you go to order these connectors, you need to figure out how many of these points that you need. This is a 4-point. So we've got 4 connections here. 1, 2, 3, 4 to match these 4. If you only have 2, you need to make sure that you order the right kind of connectors. When you cut, you can cut here or here, but when you come across where they soldered together, okay, so this is where you don't want to cut. You don't want to cut here, because when you cut, these have to fit inside this little sliver here and underneath these test pads. It has to fit in there nicely. In my experience, it's hard to get these to go underneath those little metal, whatever you want to call those things. So when you come across, if you're coming to one of these, you want to skip that one and cut here instead. So if you have to absolutely cut here, and that's where your length is for it to fit, hopefully that's not our case here. Will be here, no, it won't be. But say this actually was where you wanted to cut. What you would have to do actually is cut here instead and use a connector of this type. And then cut here and piece this together with just one of these, if that makes sense. And on these both open here. So this is what it looks like. So you would cut here, and this would go in one side, and then you would skip this one, cut here, and then this would go into the other side, so that you would have a continuous strand. And that's what these kind of connectors are for. So also, you know, I think you could probably get these in different colors. I think you can get these in white or black. We would have preferred to have black for this particular project since everything else is black. However, I had white left over from when I did my kitchen project. So I'm just going to be using white for this project. All right, so again, we want this guy to be here. Where are we gonna cut this guy? I think I don't want this to show on the side of the mirror, so I'm gonna bring him down. Now keep in mind, we can only cut these every 3. So here, here, etc. So there's a little line that we're gonna cut. And you want to make sure that you cut, you know, pretty close to that line. You don't have to be exactly on that line, but you want to leave enough test points here that, I call them test points. I don't know if that's what they really are, but they can actually get in here and get underneath. So the back it's got the sticky tape. We don't want to take that off just yet. We want to make sure that we have our design before we take this sticky tape off, before we actually do anything with it. So, now that we've cut this, and it mentions here in the directions that we probably should have read out loud before we cut anything. Once the strip is cut, an extra connector is needed for reconnection. Otherwise, the rest of the part being cut will not work. And the connectors do not come with these LEDs, by the way. You will have to buy these separate. Okay, so what is the length that we'll need here? Right here. And the same length for the other side. And then coming down. All right, so now that we have all of our pieces cut, we know where we want it to go. And just keep in mind, you do need to use this part of it. This is what connects to the power. So you can't just have a bunch of these strips. You have to actually have one that I'm sure you all know that, but make sure that you keep this part as part of your design. Otherwise, they won't work. All right. So let's see if we can get this end off so we can start putting them in the connectors. This is the difficult part. Trying to get that little guy out of there. There we are. Now, this is sticky. It will, when you try to push it in here, it might start sticking to this connector and it makes it difficult. Sometimes I've had that problem where I try and get this in here and it gets stuck and then I have to pull it back out and push it back in, pull it out, push it in. And sometimes that will mess these connectors up, in which case I need to get a whole new strip of LEDs, or I have to cut down here and use one of these connectors to try and piece one together. We don't want to do that. We want to try to avoid that. So we are just going to try and get these guys to slide in there first try. This is what we're going to try to do. Alright. So now you can see that they are underneath the metal pads. Each of these 4 connectors should be a good connection. So we're just going to close that now. Now we're going to take our short edge. By the way, this is labeled RGB. So you want to make sure that you get the RGB lined up here. You don't want it to be the other way where you have the voltage lined up with the B. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that when you put these in. Now this is labeled BGR. On here it's actually BRG. That doesn't matter. As long as your voltage is on the same pin that, that these are labeled, your blue, green, and red should be fine. These connectors just means this G is going to that G, but in our case it's an R. That won't mess any of your programming up or anything else. Again, we want to try and push those in there. Nice, good connection. And it looks good. Before we go any further, we're going to test that this connection actually works. Plug it back in. Uh-oh. And that's why we test it. So now we got to figure out why that didn't work. Oh, now I know why. Remember how I told you that we needed to pay attention to where the voltage was? Had that wrong. Let's use the same connector. And this time let's connect it correctly. Let's see if that made a difference. Ah, see? You always have to pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, now we're ready for the longer strip over here. All right. So this one goes into here now. All right, so far so good. Lock them in place. Make sure it, all right. Last strip down here. It's hard to get the tape off. If you don't have nails, I have no idea what you're gonna do. We have all of our connectors on now. So now we just got to pull the stickies off and attach it to the mirror. I'm gonna start up here. Okay. This is going to go all the way on the edge. Okay. I'm going to take this strip off and attach it. Looking good. And this side here. So I need to figure out what I want to do down here. This can go ahead and get on. Now they did send these little connectors with the strip lights here. And maybe we'll use that for the back. Wrap this around and maybe put the cord on the back. Over. All right, we got some duct tape here. We are just going to tape this to the back. All right. And now we have our own little LED decorated light or mirror. And there you have it. So you have different colors you can push. I think she's going to be excited. I think she's going to like this. All right, there you go.